Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues. With this video, I want to discuss briefly my thoughts on the new Disney film, Maleficent, starring Angelina Jolie, among others. And, I'm a longtime fan of the original Disney animated Sleeping Beauty, which I have right here. And this is just probably my all-time favorite Disney film. It's always neck and neck with Aladdin for me as far as being the best, my top favorite choice of any of the animated films from Disney. And Maleficent, I don't actually have the box. It was sent to me by my brother on YouTube, TJ Pyramid. Thank you very much, sir, for that. He had gotten the DVD combo pack and given me the DVD version of it since I don't have a Blu-ray. And I just enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I actually did. It was very interesting to me because it's not so much a reboot as a retelling of the story, but also from the perspective, much as the advertising leading up to this movie's release was, trying to put forth. It's from the perspective of Maleficent herself. And we basically see in this story how there was kind of a love affair and love scorn between her and the king, who ends up becoming Aurora's father, which is very interesting to me. This Stefan character, there was a divide between the human world and sort of the fairy fantasy world that coincides with it. All of the otherworldly beings like fairies and, living trees and all these kinds of different things. There's a barrier between them, a divide between them, where humankind is threatened and feels threatened by this otherworldliness. So the then king basically wanted to destroy Maleficent, and there's this almost Lord of the Rings like attack that happens between both factions, Maleficent leading, of course, this sort of fantasy realm, if you will. And I forget exactly what they called it in the film, that's why I'm referring to it as such. But for, lack of a better term, we have this inquisitive young man, Stefan, who will later become the king, and the way he does so is to scorn his love and, romantic feelings for Maleficent. As we find out, as children, as teenagers, they meet each other. She is a winged fairy, a very powerful fairy, with the horns and all and everything like that. And she's a very benevolent sort of soul. But what kills her, what ruins it for her, is the fact that Stefan, upon the king's finding out his time is limited, he's about to be killed, or rather die, succumb to death, not actually murdered. Stefan takes it upon himself to try to become the successor to the throne. He goes back out to this fantastical, land. The Moors, actually, is what they're called in the film. And basically, he knocks Maleficent out and then shorns off her back her wings, her precious, powerful, and just majestic wings. And when she comes to, it is just latent fury, very understandably so. And so we see this as being sort of the impetus for her coming later once Aurora is born. She creates this sort of, out of a crow that's flying around the area, she creates this sort of, I guess you could say, right-hand man, called Diaval, who basically is the spy. He's going back and forth to the kingdom, letting Maleficent know what is unfolding, as Stefan has now married into royalty. He is now the true successor to the throne once the king has become deceased. And he's continuing sort of his posturing and fear, and loathing, in a sense, of the Moors, of the creatures and the beings of the Moors, being otherworldly as they are. And so this is where essentially we see, calling back on the animated feature Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent comes and crashes the party once Aurora is born and puts that, basically unearthly spell on her that she'll fall into a sleep once pricking her finger at the age of 16. And so it's interesting because this is where there's a division in the story from the original. We basically see that all the while. If you've ever watched the original Sleeping Beauty, you might ask yourself, how is it that Maleficent doesn't know where Aurora is, being hidden out in the woods as, powerful and omnipresent as she is? How could she miss the three fairies living their sort of fake life and everything? And this movie flips it on its ear, because essentially we see that Maleficent has known all along. She's actually watching very closely Aurora as she's growing up and everything like that. And even to the point of Aurora's curiosity, a bond forms between them. She starts to realize she knows this woman. She calls her her fairy godmother and all this kind of stuff. Just really awesome twists and turns along those lines. We see that King Stefan is falling down the slippery slope of madness because of this love he scorned, because he knows of the powers Maleficent represents and the threat that she represents. And it kind of flips on its ear that whole aspect of the original animated classic where it's, you know, actually the good prince who comes along and bests Maleficent, all this stuff. The story doesn't actually quite go that way. And I was a little bit taken aback by some of the choices toward the end of the film that do not coincide with the original telling. But what I like about it is it still fits that mold of how we look upon history. The winning faction, the winning side, rewrites history according to their own perspective. And in this particular film, we're seeing Maleficent's side of the story, so it's okay that it doesn't reflect what you could call the historical perspective of the original animated Sleeping Beauty. They kind of have different, you know, endings. Everything ends in different means and stuff like that. And it was just a really fantastic watch as far as I was concerned. I know it has gotten some flack along the same lines as the Alice in Wonderland live-action movie, which I enjoyed that too. But this I felt was leaps and bounds much better because it actually did closely relate to the story and the original characters of the Disney film more than I thought it would, even though it did deviate toward the end quite, you know, expoundingly, but I still really enjoyed it. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. If you've seen Maleficent, what you thought of it. Do you share my love in it as well as the original Sleeping Beauty that it was based on? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, so otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video and then find you well. And I'll catch you later. Peace.